thank you for being here for the Accessibility Committee meeting. I'm the Vice Chair. I'm Nicole Uzelman. Cindy Solda's can't be with us today. She's our chair. Just going to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are meeting on the ceded territories of the Hoop-Pinchisitt and Tishat First Nations, member nations of the Channel. I've introduced myself. There's some other people in the room and online. If everybody could just introduce themselves. I know we have a couple new members to our committee. Maybe we could start there. If you could introduce yourselves, that'd be great. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kat Belisle. Yeah.
I'm Flo Parrott. I'm a member of the community.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Heather Zenner, Manager of Administrative Services for the Regional District.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Darling, Director of Corporate Services for the City of Port Alberni.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dustin Dame, Counselor at City of Port Alberni.
Good morning. My name is Karen Freely. I'm the Protective Services Manager with the ACRD.
Hello, everyone. I'm Desiree McClary. This is my first committee meeting, so I'm excited. And I'm also doing a presentation today. I have a son who is just shy of 5 years old, and he has autism and cerebral palsy.
Hi, I'm Haley, and I'm here to present today. I'm a member of the community, and I have a son with cerebral palsy.
All right, thank you, everyone. And can the people online maybe introduce themselves as well?
I'm Veda Siga. I'm Director for the Area C for the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District.
I am Amber Severinson. I'm just a volunteer member of this committee.
I'm Deanna Spencer. I'm an employment counselor with Work BC, and I've been living with MS for 20 years.
All right, thank you, everyone. I just wanted to mention that we had a meeting. Oh, first of all, I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit. I wanted approval for the agenda for today. If everybody received the agenda. Some additions. You could get approval of the agenda. Okay, thank you. So that was Jensen and second. Thank you. All right. So now for the meeting minutes. So we met on February the 11th. The meeting minutes were sent out to the members of the committee. Just looking that we adopt the meeting minutes. Dana and Justin, thank you. Okay. Now, I mean, we're moving right along really fast here. So Desiree and Haley, you're here for your presentation. Thank you.
Hi, we're Haley and Desiree. We're friends and moms of boys who were affected by pediatric stroke early on in life. And both boys were then diagnosed with cerebral palsy. This brings them many struggles, challenges, especially when involving in the community with activities. One major barrier that we face is inclusive playgrounds. that allow all children, regardless of their ability, to play together. That's where we've come together to create and form the Inclusive Play PA to advocate for children and adults who deserve to feel inclusive in this town and city.
We're going to alternate here between who talks, so bear with us. Okay, so this is kind of fun. So the first 2 years, like year and a half that we were together, we did things on our own. And then we had 2 walks. Our third pediatric stroke awareness walk is coming up June 7th. And so we thought, wow, we're actually doing quite well with this. We're raising lots of money. We definitely need to form a society and make things official. And we held an AGM and we had so many amazing people want to sign up and be part of our board. So I will just note some of these people. So Brenda O'Shaney on the left, she is retired. She had a successful business in town for like years and years. She's our money girl. And she is retired. She has lots of time. She also does a lot with the backpack program. So she's really good when it comes to grants and different things. Lori Thompson to the right, she's my mother-in-law. So she has a grandson with disability. So she's very passionate about all things accessibility, and she volunteers a lot in the community as well. Nicole Bazanson, you might recognize her. She is the manager at Hummingbird Daycare, where my son goes to. She has people in her family who have disability. She also takes care of an adult who has needs as well. So she is very passionate. To our right, Darren O'Shaney, he is a realtor in the town. He also is really great at graphics design. So we love having him. He's really knowledgeable when it comes to building. He's done a lot of buying and selling. So we're really happy to have him. Last one, or second to last one, Lauren on the bottom left. So she works for infant development. She has a lot of really great connections and ideas. So we're happy to have her. And then Leanne Frechette, who is Haley's mom. And she also has a grandson who has disabilities. So she is passionate about all things. And I think our board is very strong because they all have the same vision that we do. So we are excited about that. So I just want to introduce them because they are not here today. And then the next thing, so I did ask Heather a bit about what we're going to talk about. So we did do a presentation that was similar to this with the city, just showing a park that we put together and like the importance of what an accessible and inclusive park mean, because for a lot of people, they don't know what that means. And personally, I didn't really either until I had my son. And then I have done a lot of research. So it's something near and dear to us. So what we did is we weren't able to do Salmon Beach, but we did 2 of the parks within the ACRD. And what I did here is these are pictures of the park, and I went to the park and then I put these little stars beside, which are easy things that could be added to the space. Again, none of these spaces are accessible for anyone in a wheelchair or a walker. You can see my feet on the bottom right there. A lovely shoe choice. But I had a really hard time walking in that park. Like my feet were sinking and I wasn't even walking around my little guy. So I definitely think 100% the surfacing is not accessible, which we know. Like there's a lot of things here that aren't accessible. So it's hard to just say, hey, take it all down and rebuild something. So little things that could be added would be maybe a space that is turfed that has an accessible piece on it. So someone could then still feel like they're in the park and maybe there's a component that's on that space that's accessible. Also the playground or the swing set, sorry, that a bucket seat could be added to that for someone who can't sit with unassisted, like just on a swing normally. Yeah, it's hard because there's a lot of things in this park that just aren't accessible. And the one main thing is when I drove up on the top right there, you'll see that like I actually couldn't even fit my son's wheelchair through there, and he's a tiny little guy. So for sure, an adult in a chair is not getting through there. So even spacing those rocks out so that someone can even get onto the grass and then to access like the walking trails or anything. But for sure, accessibility is not great there. Yep.
So even like with my son, he's able to walk without a walker, but he does, his right side turns in, so he has braces and everything. He needs stable ground. So even kids who may not have the walker or wheelchair, it's also very important because it can often lead to falling, and that's not what we want there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, and then next slide, I think I kept it here. So the parking, there is no labeling of any accessible parking. So there's only 6 or 7 slots there. So if it was busy, there is no parking for anybody who has a sign hanging in their mirror. The pathways to the bathroom were very accessible. They were all concrete, which was really nice. But I would say that top right one where the bathroom is, it does look accessible, but or truthfully, like when you push someone in with a chair, there's no way that a person, like an aide and individual can be in there together. And I'm not trying to pick this all apart. I'm just trying to give examples. There's also the gazebo area. It could use like some like a ramp or something to transition, because right now there's quite a big lip, so you can't get to those, as well as the I don't know if it's a pickleball court or a tennis court, and then also this concreted court. Those are great spaces for people to access, but there's not big enough space for them to get in. And then again, it's just gravel leading you there. So little things that you guys or, the ACRD could do to put in a little bit of work to this playground to at least make it accessible from the outside. Of course, there's a lot of work to do when it comes to the park. The last one. So Bamfield Park, well, this one too. So this park isn't accessible because the border around it is wood. So there's quite big of lip. There's wood chip base, no accessible structures. Again, there could be a bucket seat added to the swing set, but realistically, this park isn't accessible for anyone that has any sort of needs, unfortunately. Salmon Beach, I wasn't able to look at, but we do want to tell you guys a bit about what an inclusive playground actually is for some of you that maybe aren't affected by it. Haley's going to tell you what that is.
Yeah, so an inclusive playground is a space where there's a lot of openings. It's designed to promote play amongst children of all abilities so they can all feel equal as one, and all ages as well. So infants all the way up until older kids. So it just is a same platform so everyone can play on each different type of equipment and feel like they're not separate and they're not, different, sitting on the sideline watching their friend go on the swing while they can't, right? Or playing on the structure while they can't. So it's really just teaching everyone that it's a place where they can play and they can truly feel seen, felt by everyone, and just it doesn't make anyone feel different where kids are going to point or they're going to, they're all playing as one. So it's just not only for physical, but mental.
Please. Okay, so I'll just roughly go over some of the components. So things that you need to think about when creating a structure would be a wide range of materials and textures, natural elements like sand, water, flour, interactive panels that, the pieces move up and down or they spin and the beads move around. Those are really intriguing for all kids. Spinning, sliding, and swinging for that sensory input. If you can go to the next one. And then developably appropriate cognitive and physical play. So cognitive play can happen individually or in an interactive group. There's moments between an adult and a child. So all kids can benefit from physical activities such as balance and coordination, muscle strength and endurance, as well as cardiovascular exercise. So having games that are problem solving, mazes, learning, tracing, and then flexibility and options. So having large play structures, but also small, cozy ones so kids can hide away. I know my son loves to do that. Even if it's a big play structure, we'll be like underneath playing with a car. So it's definitely important to have those spaces as well, because a lot of kids, when it's a busy atmosphere, they like to get away too. Haley's going to tell us about the safety, comfort, and the access of the park.
Yeah, so some pretty important things are fencing. So parents and kids can both feel safe in the area. You often there are some kids who have disabilities that are silent and they may not be verbal or anything. So they will run and, maybe they don't see their parents or something like that. So just feeling really safe in their area. Signs. So making sure that there's a lot of signage there so everyone is able to read it, nice and big, bold writing. Shade, different children tolerate different heat, cold, rain, all that. So just making sure that there's shade, there's cover. Seating, having benches that have arms, just so people are feeling stable while they're sitting. Not everyone can sit up straight on their own. Pathways that are accessible for wheelchairs, walkers, big enough so both the care worker or parent and the child or adult can get through. Ramps and transfer points just to make everything much safer, smoother, so there's no falls or spills or anything like that. Pardon?
Oh, the transfer points, for instance, like if you have like a lower level park, like a lot of accessible parks, they're not super high, right? And then you have like an opening, right? And then that's where like, say, for instance, there's like a slide here. Well, then there's an opening, right? So then if it's a larger individual and then needs to be lifted up, it's like a transfer point in which they have support, the aid or the adult can help them, and then it allows them to go down. So you're not having to like go through the entire park to get to maybe the piece of equipment. It's just like a station in which it assists the aid. Yeah. And then who's going to benefit from the park? So children of all ages, adults with needs, our community and surrounding communities. And then we also have to remember that visitors traveling also, because when I am traveling, I 100% I'm like, do they have an accessible park? Like I'm looking, we're on Google and like, what does this look like? What does that look like? So you do have to remember that when people are traveling, it is something that we could be proud of in our community as well. And then the next slide. So this is something that we presented to the city back in September. So for us, this is something that we created with Landscape Structures. To us, this is like the ultimate. We could probably use a bit more shade, but this is the ultimate accessible playground. So just a little bit about this, you can see that there's lots of ramp spaces, which are all leading to activities. That's a big thing, is that when you're creating an accessible playground, a lot of times it goes to nothing. So like the individual gets there and they're like, well, now what? Like, no, we're just pushing you around. Like, it's not fun, right? It has to be engaging. And then there's on the left here, you'll see a Swayo fun, which is a person with a chair can actually go into that. And then the peers can sit across from them and play. We added this structure on the far left that is not accessible, but again, we're trying to make it engaging for everyone. So there has to be different pieces. You're getting the cozy dome in the back, which kids can climb, but they can also hide under. If you want to put the next slide. Yeah, and then well, we got a bucket seat here. So if, someone's on the swing, they can also swing beside their peers. Same thing with the zip line. I know they have that in Parksville and it's really popular. Like everyone wants to go on the bucket seat on the zip line. And then you'll see to the left, there's actually this piece that's kind of looks like a snake, and it all has sensory pieces in it. So you can climb underneath it, but you can also be in a chair and actually engaging with it. So that's also fun. Oh, there it is. Yeah. And then this is We Go Around. That is in Nanaimo, and that is super fun. So anybody can zoom into there. You can actually turn from the inside, you could turn from the outside, you could sit. Really accessible piece. Here on the left, so this is a roller slide. It's hard to see, but right here, like that would be a transfer space. And then you're having, slides that are fun for all ages, but also having this roller slide, which an individual can go on, and it gives them that sensory input, but it also slows them down. So like, you're not just whipping down the slide. And it's also a lower point, right? Because if you have to think, if someone who has a child is lifting all the time at the park, your back gets sore real quick. So having something that's shorter is also really nice. And then when we talk about what this costs, this is just to give you guys information and educate you. So that design that we had was drafted by Habitat Structures. That structure in general would cost 950,000 to 1 million. The park in Parksville costed 715, and the Mateo Sutton costed 650. Those were all put together by community grants, fundraising from communities, as well as their own money put back into that. So they are pricey, we know that, but they are important piece of the community. And Haley will just share with you what communities already have taken these steps.
Yeah, so as you see, Souk, Courtney, Nanaimo, Parksville, and Victoria all have created accessible playgrounds, which I know Desiree and I both have gone and, well, Desiree mainly has gone and explored. I have a few other kids. It's hard to get them all out the door. So, but yeah, so that's in conclusion. I just want to say thank you for allowing us to present today and for hearing us and being open to making this town more accessible.
Yeah, thank you. Does anyone have any questions, or do we open it for questions? I guess I'm not leading this meeting.
Thank you for your presentation. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah. Amber, did you have a question?
Oh.
Thank you for your presentation. I agree. I think there's like definitely some things at Cougar Smith Park that could even be adjusted to make it more accessible in the short term before or full replacement is needed. A question for you is, what park in Port Alberni do you take your kids to that has accessible parks to it, or are you heading out of town?
There really isn't any. There's like the McQuina has like a little bit of an accessible piece, like just a ramp that goes to, but then it's all wood chip. So I would say that would be like the most accessible piece. Blair Park, I would say we go to often, but that's not really because of the park. It's because like there's the water park. So like we can push, I can push Kiefer in his wheelchair. Her kids like to play there. There's also the dike, which we really like about that. But I would say like if I'm really ever thinking, like once a week I go to Parksville to go to the park, or I go to Nanaimo, because when I think about going to the park, it's just like when I go to the pool, like I go to Nanaimo or Qualicum, and I don't like to go outside my community, but for me, I think about like what is going to be the funnest for Kiefer, and he can be the most independent. So having that beach access or having those pieces where he can play and be safe, and like what's the easiest on my body. So that's why I would rather drive. But I wish that we could have something here that would be engaging. But I would say like most of the parks in town, just if you have a child with a wheelchair or walker, like there's just not really anything engaging. Yeah, that's just honesty.
Okay. And then could you talk more about your pediatric walk on June 7th and what that involves, and what are you fundraising for?
Yeah, do you want to talk about that? Do you want me to?
I'll start it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we started the walk just to really, people didn't even know that kids can have strokes. The amount of people that were appalled by that was pretty crazy. So, and even just kids, I think it was our first walk. Kids would go home and they're like, we need to make this better for kids. Like they were really engaged and they were really wanting to make a change, and they were very excited about it. So we really just kind of started it for that. And we were like, no, we're going to try and see if we can raise some money to make some parks more accessible for kids. But it was mainly just to educate people, to make people aware.
Yeah, I agree with Haley. And I think a lot of it I've gotten into this accessibility lens where I'm looking through everything through an accessibility lens. I really find that the only change comes from people who speak up, or like a lot of people just are uneducated. So that's why there's never this change, right? Because they just don't know. And maybe they're uncomfortable and they don't know how to ask or that sort of thing. But for us, it's just, I would say just raising awareness. Like we just want people to know who we are. We want people to be educated. And we also like want to teach our kids as friends, like what it looks like to be, have a disability or be different, and create spaces for them they can all play together. Our pediatric stroke walk is our third one this year. So it's June 7th from 10 to 1 at Blair Park. We are raising funds to go back into community play spaces, of course. There'll be lots of fun things there. We have like face painting, we're going to have rock painting, we're going to have like scavenger hunt. And everyone with all abilities can come. So what we do is we do a walk and we go around the dike, and then we come back and there's like refreshments and music and fun stuff. So it's a really good time.
It's also nice because we at first just reached out to the community and asked for some help, and people were willing. And each year they say, message me again, connect with me again. And people are asking, when's the walk? I want to be able to donate this. I want to, all the food's donated, everything. So there's so much support behind us, and it's just growing each year, and it's really nice to see.
Yes, I just wondered, is there other ways people can reach out to you or to make a donation? If you could share that. And also, as an executive director of an organization, I noticed Lorna's on your board, so I was happy to see someone from our organization, from IDP. Can we share this information through our social media and things like that? Do you want to get the word out that way? How might people know?
Yeah, that would be amazing. Prior to this, we did all the donations just through like e-transfer and all the things, but this year we actually posted online. I can share with you guys like the link to, you can buy apparel online, you can make a donation online. It's really simple, and I can share with you the flyer as well. So that would be really nice, because the more the merrier, in my opinion. So it's really easy to make a donation or buy apparel. And with the apparel, over 3/4 of the apparel costs go back to the walk. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That's excellent. Beta, did you have a question?
Thank you. No, I just wanted to congratulate you on setting up a society and creating awareness, because many of the people that I spoke to about coming on to the board just sort of said, well, it's always been the way it is. It's not going to change. So congratulations on doing this and making change.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I think we pride ourselves on like getting in there and getting it done, because again, you have to be the force. And I know too, with my son, as time's gone on, I really realized there's a lot of parents or individuals who just are afraid to speak up or talk, because they're like, well, what am I going to do? Right? Like if I say something, like, is there actually going to be change? And of course, like there's only certain things that we can control, but I think just being the voice is important. So thank you.
Hi, I'm really excited to hear about all the work you're doing. I'm also super affected.
Mhm.
I have 2 children, 10 and 7, and I often I used to take my son to Blair Park because there's a bike track, but I actually physically can't access the grass, and like you said, the gravel is the worst that you could have to if you have a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you can share a little bit about the reception when you presented to the city. Like how did that, is there?
Yeah. I also too at the Blair Park, getting in there, it's like simple things. I always think like that's why I made it known there, like just moving those rocks, just like basic stuff that doesn't really cost much money. Like maybe a person going out there for a couple hours could like totally change your access to a space. So I think that would be something easy for them to fix. But sorry, what was the city? Yeah, we got like really good feedback from the city. Like every counselor was excited about, I feel like everyone knows what needs to be done, but it's just getting it done. Things cost money, but they do have a parks master plan going on right now. So I think a lot of that is in the works. I think the age we live in right now, it's a lot different, because a lot of things are looked through the lens now. Like people aren't just building they still are building parks, but things are happening, but you have to this committee is, formed. Like there's all of this, I guess it has to be at the forefront of people's minds now. So I think that the city, I'm sure I can't speak for the city, but all of the feedback we got was great. Again, for us, we were there to not say hey, you need to build us a park, pair with us, but we also are trying to do our own work to actually secure land that's not with the city. and make it community owned and put in our own money and access grants and work with nonprofits. So we're working with that because I think the city probably has a lot going on with their master plan. So it's hard for me to speak for the city, but it was good feedback. Like when we left, we felt great. You can rewatch it. It was back in September. Yeah.
Like you said, though, like the Nanaimo and the Parksville parks,
Yeah.
they're so popular.
I
Like,
know.
and they're in locations that are really public, like beautiful, like right on the water. And
Yeah.
they draw so much like tourism, like with the food truck, like, I don't know. And we go there too, because I can go on the rubber ground there.
Yeah, exactly. And, but sometimes it's like, your kids want to go to the park and you're like, oh, we only have an hour. You can't just hop in the car and go to Parksville every single time that you want to take your kids to the park, right? So.
Deanna, did you have a question?
Not questions, but I just wanted to, yeah, I just wanted to say how really proud, I know Des on a personal level, I just want to say how proud I am of you guys doing this. Myself with mobility issues in a wheelchair when I go out, I know how frustrating it can be as an adult. I am a parent, but I'm fortunate that both my kids are healthy with no disabilities, but I couldn't imagine how frustrating it's been for you guys. And it actually really, I got emotional watching your presentation. So kudos for you guys for bringing this to the forefront for kids, because I think that's really important.
Thanks, Deanna. I was going to give you a little wave on the mic.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Proud
no,
of you for that.
yeah, it's definitely just something I think before I had my son, I didn't really think too much about it. And when you're affected by it, it's different. Like you live it every day, and it's just trying to take what our passion and pour it into other people.
All right. Well, thank you both so much. And I look forward to hearing more about the walk on the 7th, and hopefully this brings some more awareness to the good work that you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. So our next order of business is the BC government news with respect to the new BC building code, the adaptable dwelling and seismic provisions that take effect or took effect, I suppose. Is it next year or is it this March? Sorry. It was
This
March.
Yeah.
They've taken effect in March 2025. So just that the accessibility is just here for information, just that we receive that as information. Yep, everyone.
Yeah, sorry, just received for information.
Yeah, and then I guess we have a couple of reports. So Heather, you're up first.
Yeah, thank you. I just had a few updates that I wanted to share with the committee since our last meeting. So I recently went out to Spark Lake Provincial Park and I had a meeting with some BC Parks staff. So I just wanted to provide an update as BC Parks came, I think in December, and chatted with our committee regarding the lack of accessible places to use Spark Lake Provincial Park. They haven't increased the number of accessible parking spots, but while we were out there, they were measuring for that. So they had committed to providing at least an additional accessible parking spot. And they had also committed to installing accessible picnic benches at the boat launch picnic area. They have installed a new cement pad, which would lead me to believe that they're going to put an accessible picnic bench there, but it hasn't installed yet. They have upgraded the pathway from the boat launch to the upper picnic area by the washrooms. So it is still a gravel surface, but it's a harder gravel surface. It's been upgraded, so it looks nice. You would have to try it out and see how it works for you. It definitely looks better than it was, but I don't know if it's fully accessible. Be interesting to check out for you. And then moving on, we had the automatic door installed at our side entrance. So that makes our office a little bit more accessible. At our last meeting, I indicated that we received some funding to to undertake accessibility training across the regional district. So currently our procurement staff person is preparing a request for proposal. So we'll be hiring a contractor to deliver accessibility training for all regional district staff, so that we can increase our awareness and education. And then we are also, as a regional district, looking at our procurement policy. So this is a policy that outlines how we hire contractors and how we do requests for proposals. And I'm advocating for accessibility to be included in the procurement policy. So that when we hire a contractor to help us do public engagement, then they know that accessibility needs to be included. We need to be thinking about accessibility when they're planning public engagement, like at a bare minimum. So I will continue to advocate for that. Yeah, that's kind of all the updates I have.
Thank you, Heather. And Karen, you're going to present for emergency preparedness.
Yes, I'm just trying to share my screen. Let's see how this looks. So I do have a presentation today, but really today was more about a dialogue rather than a presentation. So please stop me at any time. I'm just using the presentation to guide the conversation, and it might be a little bit more interesting to look at rather than just listening to my voice. So please feel free. For myself, I thought I could provide some information on emergency preparedness, but really also I would love to hear from you as well on how we can make emergency preparedness more inclusive and some of the sites that we use more accessible. So emergency management, there's 4 pillars of emergency management: mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. And so today we're really just talking about preparedness and the steps we can take to make sure that we're better prepared in an emergency. An emergency, the hazard may be the same for everyone, but the impact of the hazard will be different for everyone depending on your circumstance. So it is a unique experience for each person. So personal preparedness helps build community and personal resilience. It reduces vulnerability, and it's the foundation of emergency management. So the things to think about is, really for yourself is, are you prepared? It's really important that we're prepared personally because the community of the province will try to help, but it's really that foundational personal preparedness that really matters. So things to think about are, are you prepared to leave your home on short notice? If you were separated from your family and communications and traditional communication modes were down, how would you reunite with them? And where would you get information? So these are just prompting questions to think about for yourself. And if you know the answer to this question for yourself or for your family and your children and loved ones. So there's 3 steps to emergency preparedness. So know your hazards, make a plan, and gather your supplies. So know your hazards. So there's lots of different hazards. There's actually hundreds of different hazards worldwide. So you really only though have to prepare for the hazards that most impact or most likely to impact us. So not to get too overwhelmed by things like hurricanes or tornadoes when we typically don't get those here on Vancouver Island. So really focusing on the hazards that impact us. And understanding the risk, that's a really important piece of emergency preparedness, is understanding and having a respect for the risk that could happen and recognizing that risk, and then knowing what to do to prepare for that risk. So these are common hazards in British Columbia. The ones that I would highlight for our area would be wildfires. We certainly are susceptible to wildfires in the Alberni Valley, and we're seeing that more and more throughout the years as climate change is making things more hot. Earthquakes, tsunamis for sure. And then the air quality is being impacted from our wildfires a lot as well. And then extreme weather. So we're experiencing hotter summers, colder winters. And then as well drought, and then we saw our landslide or parts of it along the Highway 4 here. So we are susceptible to that as well. So these are the types of hazards amongst all the hazards to start focusing on and understanding the risk and then preparing for them. So making a plan, and we always say making a plan is done before a hazard. Trying to make decisions when you're in the midst of a hazard would be really challenging. And it can be chaotic. And when people are overwhelmed, they don't think clearly and they don't make decisions. There's all the stories of, you know, people having to evacuate from their home and then bringing rolls of toilet paper or things that really aren't necessary, but you just can't think things through and it gets really hard. So having a plan that's unique to your household would really benefit your family members and loved ones. So it will reduce the confusion and anxiety if you've already pre-thought out what you plan to do, and you'll be able to react more quickly and more safely. It will help expedite your recovery time, and it will help you reunite with your family and loved ones quicker and safer. So a plan really should be customized to your own family. And so there's things to think about here, to designate a meeting place, write down contact information with your family and your children so they know how to get a hold of you. So many times with our cell phones right now, even with my own children, I just hit their name and don't necessarily always know the phone number attached to the names with our cell phones. So having that contact information is really important, and understanding how to communicate if cell phones are not an option. Writing down medication. I've seen this with reception centers in the past where people go to a reception center and they had to leave their home so quickly they couldn't take their medication with them. And then they're trying to convey what medication they need. So if you have a list of your medication and your health information, that's very helpful to get help quicker. And know your evacuation routes. I will make mention that we do have, and I can show it to the folks in the room, but we do have a new evacuation route brochure. So it's also online, and I can provide you a link as well, but it really chats about the evacuation routes that are recommended to get out of, say, the inundation zone or to get away from a wildfire. So know the trusted information. When this day and age of social media, there are lots of sources of information, and it's really important that you understand what are the trusted sources of information. I think so here, I won't delve into this too long here, but just that there's some best practices for communication. Things to think about: conserving your phone battery, to reduce the network congestion, not to use or make phone calls, but texting is a better form of communication in an emergency. To turn down the light of your camera to try to conserve your charger. There's a number of different tips to extend your phone's life during that time if you're don't have a charger nearby. And also just the last bullet there, only calling 911 for serious injuries, because 911 is often overwhelmed very quickly. And so reserving that communication for serious injuries only. Whoops. Back to the top. So we do have Voyant Alert. This is Port Alberni and the Alberni Valley's emergency notification system. So if you're not already a subscriber to Voyant Alert, I highly recommend it. This would be the first way that we would communicate with people and give directions. And we would tell people, this is what's happening and this is what you should do, essentially, with Voyant Alert. It is free, and you can sign up anonymously, and it will alert your phone. This is different than the BC Alert. The BC Alert that just went off last week for a practice run, that will cut through your phone, and it comes out through our province, and it will cut through your phone and give you the alert, irregardless of whether you signed up for it or not. This one does not. This one, you do have to sign up for it to get the information. And again, just some of the trusted sources of information when you're trying to look for direction on what to do. These are the recommended sources. So to either the City of Port Alberni or the ACRD or First Nations governments, Voyant Alert. The Alert Ready is the BC system that I just chatted about. And then some of the websites here from the government of BC, Prepared BC, Drive BC, they offer really great resources for preparedness as well. And Emergency Information BC will provide evacuation route information, and BC Wildfire is very good with communicating via a number of different platforms as well. And of course, our local radio. So when we chatted about keeping your health information, if you could write down your care card numbers, your family doctors, your medication, some of the medical equipment your family members may need, and any other important health documents. Really, it's just about having that information organized so you can pass that along to someone who may be able to help you quickly. And as a family, determining your meeting space, if all communications go down and you have no way to reach out to your son or your daughter or what have you, identifying a place where people will meet is a really good thing to do in advance of an emergency. So you know how to find each other. And it's like, we'll meet at McQuina School. And if all else fails, I'll be standing there waiting for you. So that's a really good way to reunite with family members as well. This one's interesting, and I don't think many people think of this one, but designating an out of area contact. A lot of the time your local phones the system will be overrun really quickly, but you could phone out of province easier and the phone lines will remain open. So determining an out of area contact where I have a cousin in Montreal, so I use this as an example. I can phone my cousin in Montreal and say, hey, I've gone to Echo Center, I'm going to the reception center. I can't get a hold of my mom and dad, but if they phone you, let you know. And then when my mom and dad also phone my cousin in Montreal, he says, where's Karen? They can say, oh, Karen's gone to Echo Center. So that's just something to consider for your family. And I cannot tell you how many times pets got brought up in emergency management. And I have been in this job for a few years now. And inevitably there's an animal that needs tending to. So I think we had an apartment fire and there was just as many cats as there were people to tend to. So having a plan for your pet is really important as well. So when we talk about preparing, we really do and talk about all members of your family, including your furry friends. So preparing supplies and having leash and food. I know my dog she has Addison's disease, so we have medicine for her. So we would have to have medicine ready to go in an emergency. And much like humans, they need comforting as well too. So having toys and treats and blankets and whatnot would help them feel less stressed. And insurance, if you do have the ability, or you may want to check with your insurance company. I've been heartbroken on many a scene where people have been watching their homes burn down and they don't have house insurance. And I would say that it happens more often than you would think. So I just strongly encourage you to look at your insurance policy. That is both your home insurance and renter's insurance as well, just to see that you're covered. And if you can't afford it, I strongly encourage you to do so because, as I said, it's been heartbreaking on a few occasions watching people's residence burn down and when they don't have insurance. So building your kits, I just wanted to chat about the distinction between a home emergency kit and a grab and go bag, because we often talk about emergency supplies. So your home emergency kit is used when you need to stay home. So this would be a good example if you've had to shelter in place due to an earthquake or a severe storm. So this is really your larger emergency kit that would be in your house. that you may need to be in your house without support for 3 to 7 days. So really just thinking about what you need as a family to survive for that long. And we do have lots of information here, and there's for those of you online, Prepared BC has wonderful resources and documents on what to add into your emergency kit, and I'm happy to share that information. And then the distinction between that and a grab and go bag is just as it sounds, you're grabbing and you're going. So it's a smaller version of your emergency kit, and it's something where you have to evacuate and you need to be able to carry it with you. So ideally, you would have a grab and go bag for everybody in your family or everyone in your household, including a pet. Your pet would also have a grab and go bag as well. And this is something that you're taking with you. And so it's easily accessible and easy to carry and bring with you. So these are just some of the basic items that you would have in an emergency kit, but there's a more extensive list at Prepared BC. And then again, the grab and go bags. So I mentioned Prepared BC. They really do have great information. There's lots of pamphlets. They're really easy to read. It's not too much information. And they also have a fill in a blank emergency plan where it just prompts you to fill out some information. The last thing I wanted to mention before I open it up for questions is just the different evacuation messages. So there's evacuation alert, order, and rescind. So the alert is being on the ready to leave. They've basically said, you know, a hazard is approaching. It's in your neighborhood. We want to give you time to get ready to leave. And then the order is you are at risk. You need to leave immediately. But I just wanted to say for those who need a little bit more time to evacuate from your home, I would consider leaving or consider really getting the wheels in motion to leave for an evacuation alert. If you need more time to leave your home, give yourself that time, and we will give you as much time as we can from the Emergency Operations Center. And then on that note, just the one last thing I'd like to say is if you live in the inundation zone or areas of risk, just think about how you might evacuate those areas. And I always try to say the harsh reality that in those moments where you hear the tsunami sirens going at 2 a.m, there isn't an emergency first responder that's able to come and evacuate people. So the fire department can't do it with their trucks, and the ambulance don't have enough ambulance to really make mass evacuations. So just consider if you live in the inundation zone, or if you have a family member that lives in the inundation zone that would need help being transported, to build a family plan around how you would support that person that needs to leave the area. And whether that's someone coming to pick you up, or having a neighbor, or you taking your neighbor with you, but just something to consider as if you're in those high area risk areas. And that's really from my side. I just really wanted to provide some tips around emergency preparedness, but I would be really interested, and it doesn't have to be today. You have connection with Heather in the future. And so if there's things that we can do that would help improve communication or accessibility to reception centers and group lodging sites, please let us know. We're happy to make improvements and increase our awareness. Some things that I've thought about is I'm happy to come out and do some outreach discussions. I went to PACL last year and had a good presentation there and was able to hear from the group. We might be able to look at our reception centers and analyze how accessible our reception centers are. We do have 7 of them identified locally, but I was talking to Heather, we haven't really looked at it from an accessibility side of things. So I think that's one thing we can make improvements on immediately. So if you have any other suggestions, we are definitely open to hearing about it. I will stop sharing my screen.
You showed the brochure you bought for the folks with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
The blue one, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Try to show. online. Oh, yes, here I am. So this is a brochure. It's specifically designed, it's from the province Prepare BC, and the title of it is Resources for People with Disabilities. And it really just talks about some of the ways to protect yourself. For example, on the first page, it talks about how to protect yourself from an earthquake. If you're using a cane, if you're using a walker, and if you're using a wheelchair. So there's different suggestions and how to prepare. And again, it talks about the emergency supplies. It also talks about having a built-in support network, which I chatted about briefly, but really making arrangements with your support network so that you can get the care that you need during these critical moments. And this is accessible here in the office, and you can pick up a hard copy anytime, but it is also accessible online as well. And we can share that link. There we go.
Thank you, Karen. That's excellent. Lots of good information there. With respect to a lot of folks that we support with disabilities, we've partnered with some of our organizations outside of the community, and you know, that may have resources, because having talked to a lot of people in BC that were affected by the wildfires and had to evacuate in very short order. And as you know, a lot of hotel rooms, there's very few hotel rooms that are accessible within even. And so those were filling up really, really quickly for people. So often even knowing other organizations that have availability of equipment and wheelchair accessible vehicles and things like that. Sometimes it's just reaching out, and even through our organization, if people want that as part of their emergency planning outside of the valley, that we have connections within the BCCEO network, and we can make those connections throughout Vancouver Island for people that if they were to have to leave the valley, where they might go or where they might get additional supports. So if people are interested in that, I would be happy to help if that is helpful for people's plan, and bring that forward.
I just wanted to touch on the comment of the lack of accessible hotel rooms. Karen and I have done many emergencies where we're trying to put folks in hotel rooms who've experienced a house fire or something, and it's been very, very challenging. Like, we've been putting people in non-accessible rooms. So I guess a comment for you, Councillor Dean, and for Director Siga, is if you're ever having proposals come to your respective tables, to consider that as making that, you know, important consideration to think about.
And I'll just follow up with that, Heather, and just echo that the importance of personal preparedness. And again, if you know of a family member or a friend or a neighbor or something that does have an accessible home, the accessibility of hotel rooms are very limited. And then when you consider high season with hockey tournaments and whatnot, they become even less accessible. So, you know, there's folks like you're offering Without a Town. And then also if you do have your own built-in support system, or where you know of a house that you could go to, or accommodation, that's wonderful too. And I personally love it when people can go to a friend's or neighbor's house, because you have that built-in emotional support as well as accommodation, which I think is really important in times of crisis.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Did anybody online have any comments, questions? Thank you. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Veda. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment that on the East Coast, when I was staying there, the insurance company actually had a house that it used in instances where people were having to leave their home. And I'm just wondering if we could encourage the insurance companies. I mean, we're paying really, really high premiums now. And I would think that it would be to their benefit to have some consideration of the housing during emergencies as well.
I'm just wondering what the Echo Center's role is in an emergency. Like, is that a place that I can assume takes masses of people?
Thank you for asking. Echo Center is one of our designated reception centers. It is typically the building, the facility that we would use the most. It is the building that the community most recognizes to go to. And so it also has a number of the amenities that we need to care for folks as well. So, but depending on where the hazard is, it might, or what the hazard has done or the impacts it's had, it might make a decision different on what reception center we would use. So a reception center, sorry, is a place where people would go to for more information and some support and help. And you've seen those in a number of places, particularly in the interior where there's been large wildfires. But for example, if there was an earthquake, and if Echo Center was no longer available, obviously we use a different building. If there was a wildfire close by that would force us not to want to use there, then we wouldn't use Echo Center. But more often than not, that is the building we would choose first if available. We do have 7 designated reception centers, partly for this reason that depending on where the hazard is, we might be needing to use a different facility. So we would be making that decision in the moment based on the circumstances around the emergency. But that is also where Voyant Alert would really come in helpful. And we would use our social media channels as well, and the city website and the ECRD website to tell people where to go. And it is important to note that it takes about 3 hours to get a reception center open. So there is a lag time between, hey, you have to leave your home, depending on the emergency and how quickly it's happening. But hey, you have to leave your home versus the reception center's open. So it might be going to a parking lot and waiting for further information, or somewhere like if you were in the tsunami inundation zone, getting out of the tsunami inundation zone, waiting for further instructions. But we would be providing that information.
I was sort of thinking of housing, of like where people could sleep if like the situation is where hotels are full. I'm still new to town and I'm not 100% sure of all the spaces that would be practical, like gyms, etc.
Yeah, your mind's moving in a good direction. So what you're referring to is something we would call a group lodging site, which essentially our hotels are full. There's masses of people who need some care. And so we would be looking to our city facilities, regional facilities, and schools potentially, if it was a big enough issue. A lot of school gymnasiums get used for group lodging. So that's where you see people, they set up cots and they have folks come in and stay for temporary reasons. So again, it would be very dependent on the scenario. If it was summertime and it was a big enough scenario, we might be looking at some of the school district gyms. Echo Center, we have used as group lodging before in the past, so we definitely would consider group lodging there. Other potential sites might be Alberni Athletic Hall or Glenwood Center, or we even have some churches and the Trinity Church as a group lodging site and reception center as well. So, but again, we would provide that information in that moment, and we would pick the building that would be suitable for the hazard that it is and the number of people that we're trying to house. And there might be multiple group lodging sites.
Thank you. Could I insert another question? You brought up having a plan if there is someone in a tsunami zone who could need assistance. And I'm just wondering if, because I'm trying to get on your train of thought, that there's usually hours before a tsunami hits, like the warning comes well in advance. Is that true? And is that communicated to the public through these emergency alerts?
Thank you for the question. Tsunamis are typically prompted by earthquakes, and depending on the location of the earthquake would depend on how much time we may have with the tsunami. You can have several hours, and we can issue an evacuation alert and a warning and get folks moving, and it can happen very quickly depending on the location and size of the earthquake. So it's not a great answer I'm giving you, because the truth is you could have minutes or you could have hours. depending on where the earthquake or the trigger points is. So.
Did anybody have any other questions before we move on? Did anyone have anything that they wanted to add, any late business or anything?
I don't have any late business, but I just was curious if the committee had some suggestions on topics that they would like to explore at our next meeting in September. Is there staff that you would like to invite from the city or the regional district to come and speak on a particular topic? Just looking for ideas. And if you don't have them today, you can email me. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're putting our thinking caps on for that. Thanks, Heather. Is there, I know that, is there anyone joining us online? Is there anyone joining online?
No, it's just the participants, no attendees, and there's no questions in
Oh.
the comment section or the Q&A, and no emails in the responses.
Oh, all right, then I guess I'm gonna call to adjourn our meeting. And right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.